Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second Sustainable House Day expert session. We are so happy that you could join us here. First, I would just like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the stolen lands of many First Nations peoples. I am speaking to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We would like to acknowledge their elders, past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty was never ceded, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. If you like, you can feel free to share which Aboriginal land you are joining us from in the chat. Before the webinar begins, I would just like to tell you a little bit about Sustainable House Day and Renew. Sustainable House Day is a national event that gives you access to Australia's most sustainable homes. This year, we are offering 4 themed weeks of online and in-person events around the country leading up to Sustainable House Day, which will be on the 17th of October, when we'll host a day of free online sessions with our homeowners. This week is our Building and Design Week, brought to you by Your Home, NatHERS, and Design for Place. Thanks so much to them for making this event possible. You can visit sustainablehouseday.com to see detailed house profiles and tour videos for the 130 homes that are open online this year and to book for our upcoming events. Sustainable House Day is organized by Renew. We are a not-for-profit that inspires, enables, and advocates for people to live sustainably in their homes and communities. You can find out more about us at renew.org.au. Tonight's session will begin with expert presentations and then move on to a Q&A session. You can ask questions you can find in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We ask that you please use the Q&A and not the chat to ask questions. Now I'd like to hand over to our MC for this evening, Rob McLeod. He is
Thank you very much, Sophie, and my sincere apologies if I'm speaking over anyone. I'm having a couple of connection issues at my place at the moment. Thank you so much again for the introduction. It's a really great pleasure to be here tonight to introduce a really amazing group of people with some really inspiring stories. If there's one thing to take away from tonight, it's that simple changes can improve the energy efficiency of your new or existing home, and they can keep your family comfortable year-round. Building this into your plans early on using NatHERS ratings can make a massive difference. A bit about NatHERS. For 30 years, the Nationwide House Energy Rating Scheme, or NatHERS, has provided a national framework to deliver comfortable, energy-efficient homes for Australian homeowners. And NatHERS helps us buy, build, or renovate a more comfortable home that uses less energy. There are exciting changes coming to NatHERS to help deliver the next generation of modern, sustainable homes. Tonight, we'll hear from several designers, builders, and homeowners who are doing just that. They've worked together to use home energy performance ratings in different settings to improve the comfort and efficiency of a home's design. A bit of context of NatHERS. We use ratings to make choices on lots of things, on what movies we watch, on what hotel to stay in, or what restaurant to eat at. Increasingly, we're also using star ratings to guide us when we buy a home. NatHERS is the most common way to show that a home meets national energy efficiency requirements, which currently sit at a 6-star minimum. Trained assessors use CSIRO software to assess the thermal performance of a home based on its design and materials. More stars means less energy is needed to keep the house comfortable through mechanical heating or cooling. Fewer stars reflects poor design. It means a home will require a lot of heating and cooling. It'll be more costly to run. NatHERS can be a collaborative process between a designer and an assessor and a client and a builder. Working together early in the design process means you can make simple changes to ensure that you have an energy efficient home that's more comfortable to live in and cheaper to run. On that note, I think it's time that we hear some of these amazing case studies to give a bit of a flavour of what this can look like. And the first speakers that I'd really like to introduce tonight come to us from Canberra. So Jenny Edwards is the owner of Lighthouse Architecture and Science, a multi-award-winning business that integrates science with the architectural process to deliver highly efficient, climate-resilient homes in the ACT region. She's joined by Will Duncan and Dean Struys, who are the directors of 360 Building Solutions. They have over 10 years of industry experience specialising in building sustainable homes in Canberra and the surrounding region. Jenny, Will and Dean will share with us their experience of building the 8.4-star new build Rainbow House in Canberra. I'll hand over to them.
Well, thank you, Rob, and thanks, Sophie, for the lovely intro. I am Jenny Edwards from Lighthouse Architecture and Science, and I'm a scientist, not an architect, but I have a very talented team of architects. And as Rob has already said, 360 Building Solutions are led by Will, Duncan and Dean Struys, and they're a great local building company that we've enjoyed working with on, I think, I forgot to add up today, but must be close to 25 or more projects, including my own home that I'm presenting from tonight, which you can find out information about on the Renew website. I also wanted to say Yuma, and that we're presenting tonight from the land of the Ngunnawal people. I'll just move to the next slide. First of all, before we dive into Rainbow House, and we'll get there pretty quickly, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I've been using NatHERS now for 12 years on literally hundreds of homes. And when it comes to getting a house to perform really well and to be comfortable and healthy, it really boils down to three things. And this is a slide I first made in 2009. Design it right, build it well. That's over to Dean and Will. And I'll briefly touch on how we test it works. But the design it right is what we're here about tonight. And that's where we use, here in the ACT, we call it the EER, Energy Efficiency Rating Software, but we're referring to the NatHERS, the Nationwide House Energy Rating Scheme software. Just before we dive into Rainbow House, again, I want to stress that NatHERS software is the most underutilised and misunderstood piece of software in the Australian housing industry. It really is a fabulous design tool. And sadly, most people in the housing industry seem to think of it as a compliance tool and tend to leave it to the end of the design process. But obviously tonight is all about encouraging you to use it early on. And we use it from the very concept design and then check in again throughout our design process to ensure it works. And it uses 30 years of Bureau of Meteorology data, hourly data, specific to 69 different climate zones. So here in the Canberra climate, it's factoring in the extremes that we experience. You know, we go from -8 to 44. So it's a pretty harsh climate. And it looks at the overall rating, but also looks zone by zone. And tonight we're talking about a new build, and there'll be fantastic presentations about renovations. I also want to stress that it is a really useful tool for retrofits as well. And I did a webinar for Renew last year about that you can find on their YouTube channel, and some other case studies about renovations. But Rainbow House, here she is. It's a house that was completed at the end of the year before last. Its rating is just over 8 stars. And the house is only 172 square metres. And I think this is worth pointing out to people. The average new home in Canberra is 253 square metres. So this family home is considerably smaller, but it feels and functions like a fantastic home. And of course, if you're serious about sustainability, making your house smaller is one of the key things you can do. Built by 360. And I do want to point out the beautiful photos you see tonight are taken by Ben Wrigley. Before we show you the beautiful new house, let me show you what was on the site before. Whenever clients come to us, we do like to investigate the renovation potential of the home. And actually 3/4 of our work is actually renovation work and retrofit work. But in this case, the clients had lived there for 13 years and they were really sure they wanted to rebuild. And after looking at the plans and the house with them, I agreed it was a sensible decision. The existing house is the classic, north is pretty much straight up. Classic arrangement of kitchen, dining, laundry and bathroom along that lovely northern face. Big living room to the south that opened up to an outdoor area. You can see in the photo here, out here. Did have a little deck at the back, but that's the laundry and the bathroom. They had knocked through some sliding doors, but this really wasn't making good use of the site and had this weird internal bedroom. So we agreed, let's get rid of it. So they came to us with a fantastic brief, and a talented member of my team, Duncan Hall, came up with this concept, and this is the original concept sketch. You can see that the living areas, of course, make the most of that lovely northern aspect. We've got 2 working from home spaces, which have come in handy, a study nook here and a craft space here. And then the bedrooms have been tucked down the western side because the position of the car accommodation was already decided by the existing driveway. And there's this clever little courtyard out the front, which hides the clothesline and things, so that none of that stuff is out in the beautiful sunny backyard. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we do the EER or the NatHERS modelling at every stage. So at that concept design stage, we'd done some modelling and we had it sitting around 7.9, 7.8, 7.9, depending on a few things. This is the modelling I did at the second stage, which we call design development. And I won't go through it in a huge amount of detail, again, other than to point out that we get the overall house rating here, and you can see the visually represented cooling load, annual cooling loads and heating loads in Canberra. Our houses typically have a much higher heating load than cooling. But the other thing it allowed us to do was to look at how each zone is performing. And at each stage, we carefully look in particular at glazing levels. So the amount of window area is really important. Just because a wall faces north doesn't mean it can all be glass. So we optimise the glazing to floor area ratios to optimise the performance of all these spaces in both winter and in summer. And the eave, things like the eave offsets and eave projections, how high an eave is above a window, as well as how far it goes out, as well as, of course, the insulation levels and all the construction materials and things are all factored into this modelling. So this is the final design we came up with, and I know you're keen to see the house, so I'm going to let Will and Dean show you through in a second. Not much changed from that original concept. It was just tweaking of all the internal details, all the lots and lots of storage and things. One cute thing that Will and Dean will show you is that these clients have twin daughters, aged 12, and they have a sort of a secret door between their bedrooms. Nothing to do with sustainability, but good fun. And just reminding you that our clients had lived in the house for 13 years and they had a really clear idea of what they wanted, and they were genuinely concerned about the Canberra environment and our changing climate, and they wanted to address that. They were serious about using science and they really wanted to minimise their environmental impact. And NatHERS is a great tool for doing just that. So now I'm going to hand over to the boys. If they are there.
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everybody. My name is Will Duncan from 360 Building Solutions, one of the directors. We'll introduce Dean in a second. But yeah, it's another brilliant design from the Lighthouse team. One of the first couple of things we'd like to highlight is from the original house. This was the first house that I was allowed by my business partner to do a full salvage on. So the existing house, we demolished most of it by hand and tried to recycle, reuse all of the materials wherever possible. So the front brick, the Canberra red bricks that we pulled down off this house, we didn't reuse on this house. They were a little bit too orangey, didn't really fit in with the colour scheme. So these recycled bricks came in from Melbourne, which got that nice dark red colour. If we go to the next one, Jen, the original scope was to have these batten features at the front for the carport door, which you can see to the right-hand side, and the courtyard gates. They were originally specified to be just a black 30 by 30 batten timber. But as we salvaged the timbers from the roof structure and the studs, we thought we might as well re-mill those timbers down and use them as the timber batten fencing and screening, which comes up awesome. It's a really nice feature, and we're doing this a lot more on our next few houses that we have in the pipeline. As you can see, the front there, we have that nice red brick courtyard wall. In behind there is the clothesline with access in through the carport. So it's a nice little hideaway to put the bikes, put the garbage bins, have the clothesline, and still have it relatively accessible to the house, but hidden away. Yeah, so we've still got plenty of the recycled timbers. So I think we've also recycled the pavers from the original design and used it again in the landscape. And a few other bits and pieces we recycled as well. Yeah, just at the front there, and a few of the landscaping rocks as well. But yeah, I'll pass on to Dean.
Yeah. Hey Don, I'm Dean. Yeah, so this is the side where we have all the utilities. So as you can see there, we've got the sand and heat pump. We've also got the Duncan split system, which is the only source of heating for this house, heating and cooling. We've also got the slimline water tanks there, which get captured from the good capturing from all the roof. We've also got an easement down this side, so we needed access. So that sort of is the reason why that's got a double gate there with all recycled materials. If we go to the next slide, it'll show us some of the slab edge insulation, which we do on all our builds. It's a must in Canberra climate, which is tucked away under there, underneath that cladding detail. Some of the other materials that we've used on this house is just some fibre cement sheeting, also some custom wool cladding, both very cost effective and beautiful. Behind that is our external wraps, which we use Pro Climber wrap for this one, which is taped and air sealed from the outside. So
as you put it, so that's a vapor permeable.
But that's right. No internal wraps, only external wraps. We rely on the internal plasterboard for our internal seals, but also you can see there is our UPVC windows, which provide a really good bang for buck. You pretty much can't beat them for the price and efficiencies. Also got a pergola, custom-made pergola there, which eventually will have a nice deciduous grape vine that will cover the top of the canopy, providing that beautiful protection from that harsh northern summer sun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's worth pointing out. Sorry, is it all right for me to leap in here, Dean? Just to
Please.
say, classic example, this is the northern face of the house, and when people hear solar passive design, a good energy efficient design, there's a tendency to think that the entire northern facade of the house can be glass. And again, I just want to stress that point. You'll find a blog on our website about it, that you can have too much glass, particularly in a climate that is as extreme as Canberra's, and everyone's climate is getting a bit more extreme. So, while we've got a big triple stacker in the middle, the other windows are a bit more modestly sized. And again, we've really made sure that, so we're balancing. In winter, we're getting lots and lots of free heat streaming into the house. But then if you have too much glass, you then lose a lot of it overnight. But so we're optimizing it for winter, but we're also optimizing for summer, because in summer, even if it is shaded by your appropriately designed eave and you've got your lovely deciduous vines and things, you'll still get a lot more conductive gain, just to heat transfer through the glass, because a double glazed window, although they're much better than single glazed, transfers heat much faster than an insulated wall. So I'll shut up again about that. I'll hand back to the boys. Back there, Dean, sorry.
Yeah, all good. I think that was all I had for some of the outside materials. That photo actually shows the slab edge insulation quite well, where the cladding finishes and then that slab edge insulation starts. I think covered off most of the external items.
Awesome.
Yeah, so with that slab too, with that slab edge detail that we've got, with this slab, it is a couple X dome slab, which is an alternative to your typical waffle slab design. It's pretty much another void former, which works in similar way, but made from 100% recycled plastic, and it's a lot more user-friendly on site. Comes all on one pallet, which is a lot better than, if you've ever seen a building site for waffle pods, a lot better than having a massive site covered in waffle pods, it's fine until the wind picks up, which it does in Canberra.
Indeed. Cool.
But yeah, so, right, and underneath that couplex slab, we've also got a 30 mil foam, rigid foam insulation as well, which gives us that extra thermal performance in the slab. Here we have the start of the colour, the beautiful yellow front door from the deck leading in towards the front door. Yeah, going into the plan, which Jenny's already gone through.
So I just say that, yeah, Will's about to take you on a tour through here to the kitchen and to the living room, and then across here and out here, and then through the bedrooms and around.
Sweet. It's good to know that you know where I'm going, Jenny. That's great. And as I said, that was the start of the colour. So as you can see from this pic, one of the biggest things to highlight from this pic is the winter sun. When it comes in, it's lapping just at the bottom of those beautiful hot pink cupboards. And then you can imagine that hot pink heat just coming up through the slab from there. So the pink that is specified there, the original hot pink we designed apparently wasn't pink enough and it wasn't hot enough. So that's about as hot pink as you can get, which stands out well against the beautiful plied design, which goes well with the rest of the kitchen.
Yeah, cool.
Burnished concrete floors, just a standard burnish, nice and simple. It works well with the houses, simple, cost effective, and it's got great thermal performance with that natural sun coming in through northern windows. Living room here, we've got our one split system that heats and cools this whole house with the aid of the ceiling fans, which we can't see in most of these videos, most of these photos, sorry. But they are big ass fans and they work really well. The other benefit of having those fans is you have a fan which obviously circulates the air, but you also have your light fitting on that fan, and that's only one penetration in your ceiling per room. So minimising those penetrations wherever we can in the ceiling.
Excellent, and which also reduces the gaps in your insulation.
That's right. So another view here from the living area, going back towards the dining and the kitchen area.
So the sun streams right in across here. So all of this slab is heating up over winter.
Yeah, and those dogs don't move far from that nice warm slab in that winter sun. So, but yeah, you can see a fan there rolling in the video.
Yep. So there's a fan in each room, we should say. You can't see it in most pics, but every single room has a ceiling fan.
Yep. Maybe could you just go back one, Shan, just back to that living room. The extra lighting I want to show is that pelmet lighting just in the top right of that screen. Just some nice soft uplighting, which is a nice lighthouse design, which is good for watching TVs and, you know, nice relaxing light in the afternoons and night times. So we'll move forward to the sewing room / office. Storage. Storage is a must-have with any new house, and it's can soak up a lot of your budget, but it's definitely money well spent. So there's a perfect little area, which was the sewing craft room. It's more like the second office in the current pandemic that we're all dealing with at the moment. But yeah, smart use of space. The multi-room, which is towards the northern face of the house. Call it a multi-room. When it goes through the bank, we have to call it a fourth or bedroom. But multi-room is exactly what it says. You can use it as a fourth bedroom. You can use it as an office. You can use it as a kids' playroom, or just a separate lounge room to keep the kids away. But there's a nice day bed there to the right, which looks nicely over to the northern window. It's a beautiful little area there.
Cool.
And you can see the nice burnished floors there. Throughout the slides, you'll see just a consistent, it's a standard mix. There's nothing special about the concrete mix. And we just finish it with the helicopter trowels at the end of the pour, seal it, and there you have it. Cool little window on the floor of the main bedroom, which is perfect when you've had maybe too many wines the night before and you don't want to answer the door if someone's coming along, or you can see the postie dropping off any parcels, or Uber Eats dropping off a coffee in the morning. So if you don't need to get up out of bed, you can just see what's going on. The kids' bedroom. This is one cool little feature to the right-hand side there. So you can see the little two-way dual access doorway between the two daughters' bedrooms, which is great if one child doesn't want to talk to the other child. They've both got the option to shut the door. So it's a great little feature that kids love. One of the bathrooms, nice white 100 by 100 tiles with black grout, which was an interesting build. Definitely a little bit tricky to work with, but the end result is, as you can see it just looks awesome. Special detail there you can see to the right-hand side, just of that little niche. I'll just move my screen. The careful set out of the tiles is a must. So we've got a factory edge on those mitered tile edges. So it works perfectly with those tiles with the niche, and you've got a nice edge, which just works very well symmetrically.
Cool.
The carport, I believe you call this one a 1.5 size carport, Jenny,
Yeah.
Is that right? Yep. So a little bit bigger than a single carport, just for that extra storage. And you've got the other smart storage, which you can see there, overhead storage, steel beams with box band steel structure, another one to the top left there, and a little nook there, which backs onto the bathroom we just spoke about, or we just saw, for the bike storage. And if you were in the carport there and you turn directly to your left, is the little doorway towards the front courtyard. So this courtyard, you come back through the carport and walk into the door in front of you on the left there is the laundry / mudroom. So great function and to be able to move throughout the house. Back to the front. I love the front of this house. It's a really nice house, especially with those battens. Can't quite see in these photos, but there is a detail along the right-hand side, up along the fascia and back down, and then right along the fascia across to the carport door is LED lights, Christmas lights, which are there permanently throughout the year. So they light up great during the Christmas season.
That's one of the reasons we need so much storage in the carport with these clients. Their house, it becomes an incredible rainbow at Christmas time. So if you live in Canberra, it's well worth driving by in Ainslie.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it. So what have we got?
We probably need to wrap up relatively quickly, I
Yeah.
think. So I might just throw in here that Dean and Will mentioned that we use external wraps. We don't use internal air barrier membranes, but we're really focused on air tightness. So we design for minimal penetrations to reduce air leakage and maximise the insulation coverage. And we actually test that. So that's one of the things that we do as part of our service too. We test air leakage test and thermal image. But I think we should probably wrap up by saying the clients are really happy. You know, they're amazed by how comfortable and healthy their home is, and how little energy they have to use, and how much of a huge backyard they have to play in now. And they are going to be very happy there for a very, very long time. And I think that's us done. And we look forward to answering some questions later.
Very good.
No worries. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny, Will and Dean. What a beautiful house in such beautiful Canberra blue skies. There are some great questions coming in via the Q&A, and I'd remind everyone that you can ask questions of each presenter through that Q&A function, and please do so. We'll get to them at the end of the session. I'd next like to introduce our next speakers, and those are Tim Adams and Brady Lane. So Tim Adams is a building designer with 45 years of building design experience, specialising in high performance homes. Brady Lane's a carpenter, currently in the process of becoming a builder. With his family, he's built a new house using passive solar design. Tim and Brady will share their experiences of the design process for a major renovation using NatHERS in Geelong, Victoria. So Tim and Brady.
Thank you very much, Rob. And yeah, we're coming from Wadawurrung country down in the Surf Coast area of Victoria and Geelong. I'll just share my screen. We have a very old cottage in West Geelong, which has heritage protections over it, but not dramatically constraining to the extent that we're in fact able to move the house forward on the site. There's an unusually large front garden, and the backyard faces north. So we approached the council to ascertain whether the existing house could be retained, but in fact moved closer to the street. And I was a little bit surprised, but that suggestion was treated positively. So we've got a really rundown cottage. It's been boarded up. It's been reasonably dilapidated. It's had a range of different things done to it over the years, including replacing the original windows with aluminium framed windows. It's a little cottage which needs a lot of love. So Brady came to us and we are able to assist with that. The process was, I can't move it down. Next slide, thank you very much. You can see here the internals are not particularly salubrious, but what we're able to do with the project, because of its state of repair, is in fact to upgrade it substantially. The house will be moved. You can see there, in fact, that it's been relined at some stage with plasterboard walls, which would have replaced the original lath and plaster. So we've got the opportunity to, in fact, upgrade an existing house beyond what might otherwise be possible. It will have the opportunity to have insulation placed in the external walls, in the roof and in the floor, to bring it up to the sort of standard that we probably would be envisaging if we were starting from scratch. The house as it stands, we haven't even bothered to rate it in NatHERS, but it would be 0 or sub-zero. My practice uses the first-rate NatHERS program. So I can see from Jenny's slides that they use BERS. There are in fact 4 front-end options that function for NatHERS. There's first rate, which is predominantly used in Victoria, BERS, which was developed in Queensland, Accurate is the front end that CSIRO developed, and a new program called Hero has been developed in Queensland. So all 4 use the same engine to drive it, but the different software developers have put different front ends onto it. That means that there are slightly different reporting outputs that the softwares deliver, but the overall result is benchmarked so that they all provide the same results, and they're used to different effect. As Jenny said, unfortunately, they are used predominantly as a compliance tool for proving that a project achieves the minimum compliance standards to get a building permit. What we certainly do, and what we have done for years, is use it as a powerful design tool. When First Rate first became available in Victoria in about 2000, I used it because I felt that I couldn't sit in front of a client and indicate that I could back up the talk with the product if I wasn't conversant with the NatHERS software. So I became an accredited rater back in 2000 and have used it ever since, A, for our own projects, and B, as a consulting organisation for lots of other architects and designers. So we've seen not only our own work, but we've seen how thousands of other designs perform, designs that have been prepared by other people, and it's become extraordinarily instructive for us to actually just look at a plan now and know pretty much how it's going to perform. Next slide, please. Our design approach is always to very quickly look at a site, look at the attributes and constraints of the site, and come up with a quick sketch similar to the ones that you see here. We do that so that we can converse with the client and quickly get a response to see that the intent of the accommodation has been delivered. We don't go into headlong into a big 3D presentation until we've got the basics agreed to with a client and know that it's going to not only achieve good thermal performance, but also to achieve the client's objectives. We then very quickly, however, use the NatHERS program, first rate, to test our design to make sure that it's heading in the right direction. So sketches like these are part of that conversation. Next slide, please. And then once we have agreement for the design, then we convert that to a CAD model and start doing our design development and then on to documentation. You can see here on the plan that we have the big living, dining, kitchen space. Then there are bedrooms and a study in the original part of the building, plus a bathroom for the main bedroom, and then the extension, and so that's the timber frame structure, and then the extension is a slab on ground where we've got the third and fourth bedroom and the main living kitchen area. The performance that we get in our climate zone in the southern Victoria benefits greatly from passive solar gain in winter, and we want to get as much of that sun into the house as we can and have the correct ratio of thermal mass in the house to store that heat, so that's there for use after the sun goes down in the evening. The feature that you can perhaps just see there is a very small room that is accessed from the kitchen and through the pantry, and that is a cool cupboard. In all of our designs, we always try to have a cool cupboard, which is a food storage larder facility where we duct some cool air from a cool shaded part of the site and have a natural convection flow of air from the cool shaded area through that cupboard and then venting out through the roof. The first time we did it was in fact for my own house, and the experience there is that in our orchard we can grow apples and pears. Apples especially will store in the cool cupboard from the autumn fruiting season through until July and August in that cool cupboard. So it's a simple thing to do. I'm not sure why they don't occur in all houses. A new addition to the NatHERS software in the first rate version that we use is the ability to select finish colours. We've noticed that the ability to select the floor colour of a slab on ground, which benefits from passive solar gain, is deriving some really significant benefits. So in our cool climate, the benefit there is to use a dark colour, which absorbs more of the heat when the sun hits it and then releases that heat back into the room. we can see quite dramatic shifts in the performance when we test different colours. So that's a really valuable thing to be able to do, and again should be part of all design processes, that now that we've got the ability to test it and get hard numbers against that selection. And it also makes the biggest difference when it occurs in a daytime occupied space like this living dining room at the back of the house. Next slide, please. Yeah, you can see those rooms delineated a bit more clearly. The bedrooms have a different thermostat setting in the NatHERS software, which means that you don't need to get as much heat in there during the day, and therefore bedrooms, although they do benefit if you want really high performance from your house, they do benefit from sun coming in, but it's not anywhere near as critical as getting the sun into the daytime occupied spaces. You can see there that we do have a really large area of glass on the north side of this living space, but protected by a pergola so that the sun comes in during winter but is excluded during summer. The other thing that we consistently do on designs is in fact have as little eave as possible on north facing windows, but have it adjustable. A lot of people who use rule of thumb responses say that you've got to have eaves to shade windows. Well, in our climate zone, that is not in fact correct for north facing windows. The best thermal performance is achieved where you've got fully adjustable shading over north facing windows. Next slide, please. So these are then the images that give you the understanding of the form of the building, a renovated facade facing the street, the repair of the double gabled section of the existing building, and then a very, very, very simple, almost industrial form of building housing the main living area and 2 extra bedrooms. So it'll be a reasonably cost-effective project to build, and Brady can talk to that, and because Brady, in fact, as the owner, is also the builder. We have been engaged numerous times, in fact, by builders to design their own homes because they've seen our approach to design solutions and obviously made a judgment that they can benefit from our ability when the builder builds his own home. I can't see Brady is in the room at the moment.
Yep.
But
Hi, Tim.
yeah. Hey, Brady. So I guess Brady's here to expand on what he's trying to achieve, and perhaps why he thought we might be a good fit for doing his work.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So just to clarify, this house hasn't started yet. We're still in the process of getting a building permit so we can start. But this is our second house we've built with Tim, and we're really happy with the advice and the way he designs and the way he thinks about designing smart homes and building to a certainly high level of energy rating without going over the top. So that's what we're trying to achieve with this Geelong West one, is just to try to have a comfortable home for us to live in, and that it can be quite simple, and that we could just be comfortable and happy and healthy in this home. I'm not sure there's really much to add on that, but yeah.
Okay, thanks, Brady. And next slide, please. So you can see there how the sun will be coming in through those large north side windows, and next slide because we will run out of time pretty soon. So what we've achieved in this project, even with that simple little timber cottage, but upgrading it all, this house will rate 8.2 stars on the NatHERS scale, and that's the NatHERS certificate there. The output that we get from first rate is the instructive part that I go to always first is the zone energy load table, and that tells us what the heating and cooling loads are for each room in the house. And highlighted there is the result that we've achieved for that main daytime occupied space, which is what we always concentrate on. And you can see that that room, in fact, is operating at 8.85 stars, where it's only using 32.3 megajoules per square metre for the total annual heating and cooling. And interestingly, the 16.1 megajoules per square metre and for heating and 16.2 for cooling are almost identical. So to round off, NatHERS has been an extraordinarily powerful tool for us to make design decisions and deliver houses that are comfortable to live in, use the least amount of energy, which is not only good for the occupier's household budget, but it also helps the environment as well. So thank you very much. Hope that is informative as to what is possible when you're embarking on an alterations and additions project.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you so much, Brady. I am really looking forward to a future Sustainable House Day where we get to see that in real life. So thank you so much for that great information. A reminder to everyone that you can ask questions to Tim and Brady and to all of the panelists through the Q&A function. And we'll be typing some answers to those through that, but potentially also adding some extra time for questions at the end of the session. So there's a lot of work going on in NatHERS and some big news afoot because NatHERS is expanding. NatHERS is expanding the whole of home ratings, aligning with the proposed National Construction Code changes coming in 2022 towards a minimum 7 stars and an annual energy use budget for appliances. Home energy ratings will include all of the major energy uses in the home. So that's heating and cooling, hot water, lighting, pool and spa pumps, and on-site energy generation and storage, so solar panels and batteries. In addition to this, a new voluntary initiative is helping existing homeowners to better understand their home's energy performance. The National Scorecard initiative, which builds on Victoria's successful residential efficiency scorecard program, will facilitate a new national approach for assessing existing homes. House plans and building specifications aren't required for assessments provide a snapshot of a home's energy performance, the comfort of the home in weather extremes, and the energy used by appliances such as air conditioners, heaters, and hot water systems. Really importantly, I think, these assessments also identify cost-effective upgrades that can be made to reduce energy use in buildings. With that in mind, I'm really, really happy to introduce our final speaker, who's worked on the Victorian Scorecard program as an assessor. Danielle King is a highly respected consultant focused on energy and emissions reduction in the sustainable built environment. She's a fully qualified and accredited residential efficiency scorecard assessor, climate active registered consultant, and an educator in the field. She's been actively practicing in the field for over 12 years and runs a successful sustainability business based in Melbourne. So Danielle will step us through a scorecard assessment and the improvements that a homeowner, Alice, has undertaken to make her home more comfortable and energy efficient. Danielle.
Thanks, Rob. Right, let me just get my screen share happening. But while I do that, I would just like to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from the lands of the Bunurong people of the Southeastern Kulin Nation and from Bayside in Melbourne. And I would like to acknowledge them as the traditional owners and pay my respects to their elders past, present and future. Now, let me just do the screen share thing and hopefully this will work. Share. Right, if you could tell me if you'll see my screen, that would be great.
Yep, we see it.
Awesome. Right. Well, that's a good first way to start. Right. So I'm going to have a quickly go through the residential efficiency scorecard with you. For those of you who don't know much about it, I'll cover off briefly, what the scorecard is and what it can do. I'll talk you through a case study that we did with one of our householders, Alice, just recently. There's also another, that'll sort of take up the bulk of the session today from my perspective, but there's also a couple of other things that I think are really good and useful tools in terms of use of the scorecard. So I will talk to you about quantifying the changes and some of the other common upgrades that we come across in when we do our assessments. So the Residential Efficiency Scorecard tool was developed by the Victorian Government to provide a simple to understand rating tool for existing homes. Now, the star rating is based very much on cost to run the home, as opposed to the amount of energy required to heat or cool it, which is what the other tools at the moment are using. The rating includes the building shell, so your windows, your walls, your floor, your ceiling insulation, etc., and all the key fixed appliances. So this diagram shows you pretty much the sorts of things that are covered in it. So it'll cover your hot water system, your heating and cooling. If there's a pool or spa on site, that's considered a fixed appliance because most people don't take them with them. Air conditioners, lighting, drafts, gaps, and solar, etc. So it covers quite a bit. What it does not include is the removable items. So things like TVs, refrigerators, portable heating units are not covered. So I can hear you all thinking, well, what about behaviour? How does behaviour affect the energy use of the home? Well, it certainly does. To deal with that and to eliminate the highly variable issues that causes, the scorecard tool uses average appliance energy use for each state and territory from the Bureau of Statistics for its calculations. So this removes the variables of how the home is used and allows for a consistent comparison across houses, if you want to compare one against the other. And so a national version of the Residential Efficiency Scorecard has been piloted in all capital cities in 2019, and it was further trialled in 2021 with supports of all the governments. Now, in August this year, so just last month, the National Scorecard Initiative was endorsed by NatHERS, so the National House Energy Rating Scheme, which means that this tool, assessor training and assessor accreditation processes demonstrate alignment with what NatHERS in-home assessments will require in the future. Although some amendments might be expected, NatHERS requirements are still being, because their requirements are still being finalised. So this is really positive because it means that voluntary ratings for existing homes can be obtained under a government endorsed initiative right across Australia. So the one key thing to remember here is that Scorecard is a voluntary tool. It's not a compliance rating at this time. And this is what the resulting certificate will look like if you were to have your home. So this is a sample certificate. So you can see at the top, you have the average scorecard star rating. So this one is an average home at 3 stars. And that's average across all states and territories. So it doesn't matter what state you're in, the average will be 3 stars. So anything above that is pretty good is better in terms of cost to run. There's a section directly underneath that, which is the hot and the cold weather rating. You can see those bars there. And that's all about how well the house performs without active heating and cooling in hot and cold weather. The section underneath that is energy reduction in your home, which covers off solar. So for example, on this certificate here, you can see this one has got 3 stars and there's no solar on this home, on this example. So 3 stars as it stands. If you were to put 2.5 kilowatts of solar on that roof, it would shift it up to 6 stars in terms of cost to run. And the second page, which you can see on the other side of this slide, gives you details and information on things that can be done to improve the home. So let's just talk about a bit more about the scorecard. It's used by qualified and accredited assessors. Data is entered into the tool during the on-site assessment, and the certificate provides information which does assist householders with the help of the assessor to identify which upgrades are beneficial for their specific home and their particular circumstances. So with that in mind, let's meet Alice. Alice is one of our recent scorecard customers. Alice wanted to improve the comfort of her home and reduce energy costs, but really wasn't quite sure where to start. And this is very common across every assessment we do. And the scorecard assessment really was quite a logical choice. But first, a little bit of background about Alice. Alice has held various healthcare positions, mainly in intensive care, transplantation, policy and public administration. Her hobbies have been travelling and reading, and she hails from Ireland and is passionate about reducing carbon emissions so future generations can enjoy this beautiful sunburnt country that she now calls home. So very keen and keen to do the right thing for the future as well. Now, Alice lives in suburbia Melbourne. Her home is a pretty drafty 40-year-old old brick veneer home with timber windows, single glazing, old gas ducted heating, and not enough ceiling insulation. If that sounds familiar, it probably sounds familiar to half the audience here. We conducted a before and after scorecard assessment so that we could quantify the benefit of the upgrades that she made to the home. Now, her original star rating was just on 2 stars, which was below the average of 3 stars, which meant that that demonstrated that the home was likely to be uncomfortable on cold or particularly warm days and cost more than the average home in that area to run. Now, there were quite a few upgrades that were recommended as a result of the site visit, and they were done over about a 12-month period, and we upgraded her assessment afterwards. So we always focus on the low-cost items first, and the low-cost items are pretty well always draft proofing. So she had a lot of draft proofing to do around the windows, doors, and construction gaps around the home. The ceiling insulation wasn't too great, so that was updated, and there's a photo of the fixed ceiling insulation. She also did some changing of old halogen lighting to sealed LED lights. Some of the more expensive upgrades that were put in place over the year were replacing the failed gas ducted heating system with a reverse cycle unit, which was highly efficient. She did retrofit some double glazing to some existing windows. And then the cherry on the top, and the last thing that she did just recently, was installing a 3 kilowatt solar system on the roof. Now, this is the after result. So the energy efficiency improvement upgrades detailed on the previous slide increase the star rating of the home from just on 2 stars to 4.8 stars, which is almost 5 stars, which is very, very good, given that the average is just 3 stars. With the addition of solar PV, that brought the cost to run down quite significantly. So that brought the rating up to 9 stars. There's always also a few other things that could be done in the future. But this is the main work that she's being done now. Now, look, I've got a short video clip of Alice when we had a chat with her earlier. So I just wanted to go to that now. And I've got a horrible feeling that I forgot to tick that button. Is there a quick way I can do that, tech support?
Just move your mouse cursor into the center of the screen where the video is and try giving that a click. And yeah, there we go.
So
Alice, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Could you hear the sound of that?
Alice, thank you so much for joining us.
That's coming through
really
perfectly.
Appreciate your time.
Right.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about the scorecard assessment that you had on your home not long ago. How did you find the scorecard assessment process?
Look, at the assessment process was seamless, really. At the site visit, which took approximately 2.5 hours from memory, the auditor or assessor explained the process and the scorecard too. And once the on-site assessment was completed, she sat down and explained our property star rating and the priorities for improvement for our home. And those priorities were related to draft proofing, ceiling insulation, heating and cooling, windows and solar panels. So in summary, the assessment auditor was extremely professional, knowledgeable, and shared her expertise in a really easy format. She took photographs of things that needed to be upgraded, like, for example, the space under the front door. And in my view, the most beneficial part of the assessment process was the on-site visit, along with website links and things like double glazing and pictures of other upgrades. So it was, in short, it was seamless, informative, and a great experience.
Excellent. Our next question is, did the assessment provide you with some useful information?
The assessment mapped out the upgrades that were required to make our house more comfortable. And it started with the simplest and most cost-effective ways, such as draft proofing, things like seals around the doors and windows, a draft stopper in the bathroom exhaust fans, sealing a vent that was a permanent vent in a skylight that we were unaware existed, and replacing downlights with fully sealed lead units. We also upgraded ceiling insulation, and ironically, our gas ducted heating, which was installed when the house was built about 40 years ago, stopped working approximately 3 months after the assessment. So we used the assessment report and felt far more confident when making a decision to transition to a reverse cycle air conditioner. We also installed retro double glazed windows, which I didn't know had existed, and put in solar panels. So yes, it was very, very helpful.
Great. And last question for today. How do you find your home now that the upgrades have been completed?
Well, home comfort has never been more important than during a pandemic. And now that we're spending far more time working from home and in our homes. So I'm delighted to say our home is toasty warm and snug as a bog in winter. And in summer, it's cool and refreshing. But not only that, it's actually cheaper to run. We completed the majority of our upgrades by December 2020. And although we haven't completed a full year of upgrades, I calculate that we will spend approximately 1,000 on utilities this year. That's gas and electricity. Whereas historically, we used to spend about 3,000. So our house is more comfortable and more cost efficient to run. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. I'm so glad you're finding your home more comfortable now and that it was able to help you do what you wanted to do to the house.
Right, can you all hear me again? So thank you. That was big thanks to Alice for taking the time last week to participate in doing that little video clip. I'm sure it'll get more than one play going forward. One of the other key benefits that I've found as an assessor of using the scorecard is being able to quantify the impact of upgrades to householders by simulating the changes. So as an example, here's a simulation that we did for a different householder who had a weatherboard home, again in Melbourne. Their initial rating was 1.8 stars, which again, below average and high cost to run. And for context, the home was about 60 years old, had very little insulation in the ceiling, again, single glazing throughout, had an old fireplace in 2 of the bedrooms, an old gas ducted heating system and a very old air conditioner unit. So simulating the effects of the upgrade. So we thought, okay, well, if you're going to draft proof the home, seal the unused chimney and add ceiling insulation to R4.5 level, which is the recommendation for Melbourne, the star rating went up to 2.9 stars. Now you notice on the certificates now, it actually tells you whether the exact number, whether it's 2.5 or 2.9. So you can see how close you are to the next level, but it will always round down for the actual star rating, which is why I've got the 2 star there, not nearly 3. So the next one was if they decommission the old gas ducted heating and the old air conditioner unit and replaced that with a minimum 4-star reverse cycle air conditioner that serviced the family room, the study and the main bedroom, the star rating then went up to 6.3 stars. And that's quite significant. Adding double glazing or secondary glazing to all the windows and efficient window coverings like thermally lined curtains and pelmets or honeycomb blinds, and the star rating went up to 6.5 stars. So that's still 6 stars as a whole, but it nudged it up another 0.2 of the stars. And if they added R2 wall insulation and underfloor bats to the home, that brought the star rating up over the whole to 7 stars, which is pretty good. So if you then add rooftop solar of a system of at least, say, 3 kilowatts, the star rating then goes to 10 stars. And that means that the equivalent of around 100% of the home's fixed energy needs is being met by renewable energy. Now, the benefit of running these simulations is that it can demonstrate the impact of the upgrades to the homeowner and the potential of the home in terms of star rating and reduced cost to run. Now, it's also worth noting that homes cannot get any higher than 8 stars without renewable energy on site, and not all homes will be able to get to 10 stars. But it is certainly possible to make an existing home very comfortable and cost efficient to live in with the right upgrades. And we've found that using the Scorecard tool is a highly effective way to convey that message to the householder in a simple way to understand it. Now, we're asked to talk also about the most common upgrades. The most commonly recommended upgrades that are relatively easy to do and cost effective are, of course, draft proofing. I don't think I've come across a house yet that doesn't need some draft proofing. The shower head change to a 3-star WELS rated or higher, because that impacts the energy use. If you've got a high rating shower flow, it will impact the energy use of the hot water service and use more hot water and more energy to do that. Insulation upgrades, we find a lot of homes that don't have insulation in the ceiling that's particularly good, or it's either at a low level or it's very patchy where it's been moved. And window treatment. So not everyone can afford to replace windows, but by improving the window coverings with the right type of window coverings can significantly help the home. Upgrades that require more capital investment upfront, but can result in a significant star rating increases and reduce cost to run the home, include replacing old heating and cooling systems, particularly ducted systems with individual or multi-head reverse cycle units of 4-star energy ratings or higher is always very effective. Hot water service upgrades, especially where the old system on the home might be one of the old electric resistive types. Secondary and double glazing is recommended where the circumstances are appropriate, or if the homeowner is planning on window replacements or major upgrades in the future. And finally, installing solar PV is often recommended, but only if the home's roof is suitable for it. We do very much push the energy efficiency upgrades first because that's very important, and comfort, you know, a bit of draft proofing can have a significant effect on comfort immediately. Now, the other thing that we found with the Scorecard is that some finance companies, and this applies to the other NatHERS tools as well, some finance companies and mortgage providers are now offering lower cost upgrade finance and mortgages for more efficient and higher rated homes. Now, Scorecard ratings can be used to qualify for some of these offerings, as can some of the other NatHERS tools. And in relation to government programs, your local assessor should be able to assist with programs in your local area. So in summary, the Scorecard is available nationally now, primarily for existing homes. It can actually be used for new homes and renovations, for example, under the deemed to satisfy requirements if necessary, but again, not for compliance. The star rating is based on cost to run the home. It does define appropriate upgrades for the home, dependent on what the assessor finds when they go through and enter into the tool. One of the great things I find is that simulations can quantify the impact of the upgrades, and it's now available nationally as part of the NatHERS suite of products, which is terrific. And if you'd like to know any more, you can find, there's my contact details, but also if you want to find an accredited Scorecard assessor in your area, you go to the vic.gov.au Energy Scorecard website, and there's a find an accredited assessor link there. And that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Danielle. That's wonderful. And there's so much great information in there. And I'm looking forward to getting an assessment done at our place that you can see behind us right now very soon.
What? You haven't had one?
I know, it's shocking. I shouldn't admit to that in a webinar like this, but that's my very next step. I would like to invite all of the panelists now to turn on their videos and to join us for a Q&A session. We urge you to wrap up very soon, as in pretty much right now, but we'd like to just add a few minutes to the session, perhaps another 10 minutes, to allow some of the great questions that have come in to be answered by the panel. There is also scope to answer those questions via the Q&A in typing, and our panelists will be doing that potentially as we go, so feel free to keep adding them in. But the first questions are to our guests in Canberra, Jenny, Will and Dean. There were some great questions coming in about the Rainbow House. A couple of the big themes that sprung out though were, first of all, were there any issues with air tightness and condensation, and how did you manage this? And secondly, do you track the energy usage of houses that you do on completion?
Oh, look, great questions, and one we get a lot, particularly the condensation one. Air tightness, ventilation, insulation, condensation management all go together and really need to be thought of together. There's a lot of misconceptions about condensation. The major problems with condensation in Australian houses are when they're not airtight and the moisture gets into the wall spaces and into the roof space and condenses where you can't see it and causes mould and rot in the structure of the house. So if you're actually making the internal envelope more airtight, less moisture is getting into those cavities. But you're right, ventilation is really key. That's why we use ventilation inside the building envelope. And because our houses are more thermally stable and comfortable, our clients actually have the windows open the vast majority of the year. So there's actually more natural ventilation. We talked about the vapor permeable wrap. If moisture does get through the wall and into the roof space too, we've got vapor permeable membrane, so the condensation moves, moisture moves through. So we've actually checked many of our houses. Condensation hasn't been a problem. But there is an article, a Renew article called Condensation Management that I wrote that explains that in more detail. So I encourage you to look at that. Does that answer that well enough, you think, Rob? For now?
Absolutely, that's
Cool.
great. That's great. And the other one was, do you track the energy usage of houses on completion?
Yeah, yes, not all of them though. I said in a comment before that I wish I had a research budget and I could do every single one. But our clients are pretty motivated and they monitor their energy usage. And I can assure you that they all comment, particularly after their first winter, oh my gosh, I can't believe how little I used. But my own home, I've monitored very carefully. Again, there's another Renew article called A Tale of Three Winters that shows you the exact temperatures and the energy consumption. And on that case studies page, you'll see several renovation and retrofits where they talk about their energy use. So we do know that our houses perform actually better than predicted in NatHERS because they are a bit more airtight than NatHERS models. And because NatHERS assumes every bedroom and every living room is used every day of the year. And most people interested in sustainability don't run their houses like that. So not all of them, but a lot of them.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm sure there's lots of very big savings in there from some very happy customers. A question for Tim. Does the NatHERS program provide an iterative approach where it suggests what's required in particular rooms to increase the star rating? So, you know, can you use it to change the design as you go and make it more efficient?
It doesn't talk to it. If iterative is what is being alluded to there. No, it takes experience of using it to be able to look at a design and look at that table that I had at the end of my presentation, the room by room table of energy use in each room. And you can see from that which rooms need attention to heating or cooling. And once you understand the seasonal attributes you're dealing with, you can say, okay, well, if that room is performing badly in winter, maybe it needs a bit more insulation on the ceiling, or maybe it needs some passive gain from more sun coming in. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yes, it takes a little bit of experience, but not a huge amount from an experienced thermal performance assessor or designer to look at the data that comes out of the program and then test some options. It's really gratifying when you select an option, you press the calculate button and you see that it's made a useful difference.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I do have a question for Danielle, and as I ask this, I'd also like to introduce Jodie Pipcorn, who is here on behalf of NatHERS. And Jodie might like to introduce herself in a moment, but I think this is a question that's relevant to both Danielle through the scorecard and also the NatHERS system more generally. How does the residential and efficiency scorecard relate to the NatHERS system as a whole? We had a couple of questions coming in about what's included in you know, are the same things included when you're assessing a new home versus the scorecard? So what's included? And then a specific question was, is solar panel, I think you did get into this in the scorecard presentation, but are solar panels included in both of those systems?
Right. Solar panels are taken account of in the scorecard rating because the rating is based on cost to run. Solar panels will reduce the cost to run the home in terms of electricity costs. So yes, they are included. Your other question in relation to how the two work together, is that right? How does scorecard and NatHERS work together? Right. Look, the Scorecard team uses a lot of the Cheneth engine, which for those technical words out there works all the background calculations on the wall type, the size of the windows, the size of the room, the height of the ceilings, what's in the roof, what the construction is, what the slab is, etc. It's all using the same same background calculations as the rest of the other NatHERS tools uses. So the Cheneth engines basically is where that comes into. So basically anything that's to do with the building shell is pretty much in line with all the other NatHERS tools out there because they've got the same background calculations. They're using the same engine for that. The difference is that the scorecard is based on the star rating will be cost to run, not megajoules to heat or cool a particular area or the whole home. And the scorecard also takes into account, all the key fixed things like the hot water, the solar panels, anything that's going to be there when a buyer or renter moves into a house, pretty much. And it's a good indication of what sort of costs you can expect, from the fixed appliances when you move into something. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Jodie, is there anything that you'd like to add on that area and what people can expect perhaps over the coming period with this relationship?
Sure. Can I just check that you can hear me?
We can, yeah.
Thank you. So my name's Jodie Pipcorn. I'm the manager of the residential buildings and NatHERS policy team in the Commonwealth Government. Picking up from what Danielle said, I think she's completely right with the differences. I think one of the key things is that the scorecard tool is correlated to the NatHERS thermal, so it doesn't actually use the engine, but it's correlated to it. So it's a simplified assessment for the thermal. So whilst it's correlated, it's not as detailed. And as you saw from the previous presentations, I think the detail they can go into with the design and nuancing that is something that because the scorecard tool is working on a simplified process, it's designed for a different purpose. It does do the whole of home, and NatHERS is moving towards that. And so as part of the National Construction Code process at the moment, we are developing whole of home modules. And so shortly, the sort of broader NatHERS tools will be able to do that as well. But what we're looking at doing, and that's where the scorecard's been endorsed by NatHERS, it's really looking at progressing and really leveraging the work that the scorecard's been doing and actually having a full suite of tools within the NatHERS suite so that we can actually assess both new buildings and existing buildings through in-home processes as well as off the plan and design. So as you heard tonight, that really fills out the suite of NatHERS, and that's where it's moving over the coming 12 months. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, look, I do want to, we are right up against time, so I am going to have to be ending the session soon, but I do want to end it with one more question that I'll ask to all of our panelists, all of our homeowners and designers and builders, and I'll ask for a really quick response to this if I can get it. If there was one piece of advice that you would give to people starting out in this process, whether it's building a new home or whether it's renovating or, just thinking about this whole space, what would that piece of advice be? What should they think about? I'll start as we've gone around with the speakers, so I'll start with Jenny.
Invest in some design advice, seek a design expert and invest in that NatHERS assessment, the building science assessment. Bang, bang, you'll save yourself money down the track. And smaller and smarter.
Awesome, great advice. Dean.
I'd just say education around all of this, which if you're watching this, you're obviously educating yourself now. So that's, education.
Excellent. Will.
Gotcha. Just follow up on Jenny's advice. It's a lot easier and cheaper to build a house with a great design. It costs a lot more money in the end product to try and upgrade a bad design to try and make it more energy efficient. So spend the time, spend the money on a great design, a good architect and a team that knows what they're doing.
Excellent. Over to Tim.
It sounds like a broken record. The theme's consistent. My practice tagline is that it's knowledge that makes the difference, not money. And we came to that because you get kickback along from all sorts of people saying all this improvement in energy efficiency and sustainability is difficult and it's expensive. And so our position is that's absolutely not right. That just is coming from people who haven't bothered to find out what it takes. And so the knowledge base is king. Inform yourself, and for clients, ask questions about how they go about their design process. And sometimes it might be difficult to sort between people who actually know what they're talking about and some who might offer some greenwash, but that's a really critical part of the process. Ask those questions and make them hard questions.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm not sure if Brady is with us, but we will come back to you if you are, Brady. Danielle?
Well, I tend to deal with existing homes a lot more than those that have got the great opportunity to build new. But I guess my first thing is 80% of the efficiency of a home is in the design, and all these guys on board here today will know that. But when you're dealing with houses where, they've got living rooms facing south and, orientation, everything's the wrong way, but clearly they're not going to knock the house down, and that's just not sustainable either. There are ways to make a home work. So getting an assessment done so that you can identify what's going to make the biggest difference and where the best bang for buck for your dollar is going to be, I think is very worthwhile doing.
Excellent. And over to Brady.
Yeah, I just think the same as a lot of other people who are saying, just investing in the professionals, and they're the people that are in the field and know what they're doing, and you can see that they've done that before.
Great, great. And I will finish off with Jody.
Thank you. My advice, and I think everyone would know who's been involved in this, is building or improving a home is really complex. And so I'd say tap into the experts, use the NatHERS tools. They're there to help you make decisions and save you money at the end of the day. So like the others, tap into the experts, but use the tools because they are a simple way to really calculate and not require you to do all the thinking and all the work.
Fantastic. I, for one, find it reassuring that there's a very clear consensus and message coming through from all of our experts here on the stage. So look, we will wrap up now. Thank you so much to our presenters this evening and to everyone who's attended. Before we go, we do want to remind you that we have more expert sessions coming up, and as well as a free day of online sessions with homeowners on 17 October, the formal Sustainable House Day. You can register for all of these events and see all of the homes open this year at sustainablehouseday.com. We'd like to thank our sponsors and council partners for making Sustainable House Day possible. Thanks so much and have a great evening.